It spans the globe like a superhighway. It is called Internet.
Internet. Worldwide. What?
I'm a bit of an internet junkie.
Internet. Schminternet.
What is Internet anyway?
The internet is a work in progress.
And it only takes a few minutes until you're online.
Having the internet in our home has had a great impact on our lives.
Engineers now predict the day will come when we get all our newspapers and magazines by home computer. But that's a few years off.
Anything goes.
Anything goes. Exactly.
Hey, you know the internet, right? That big, important thing that keeps everything in our lives running and gives everyone the entirety of human knowledge in the palm of their hands. What do you think happens to it when it's gone? And I don't mean what happens to it when you close your browser or when you turn off your computer. I mean when it's gone, when it's finally taken down. Sure, you're on the internet right now, but what about all the websites that you used to frequent? The trusty Yahoo homepage, your old GeoCity site, or God forbid your old MySpace profile. Well, if you want to know the final resting spot of these along with billions of other web pages, they happen to be right here in San Francisco's own Richmond District. We're just a short drive away from the Golden Gate Bridge, but that place is old hat. Right here on Funston Avenue and Clement, inside this old church, is the Internet Archive. This is where all the magic happens. This is where over 100 employees and volunteers work diligently to make sure our digital world is saved, backed up, and stowed away safely. Inside these walls, you'll find walls of hard drives and servers bleeping and blooping all day long to keep up with the ridiculous amount of data being accessed on the archive every day. One of the main drivers of all that traffic is the Wayback Machine, a website built to be a venerable time travel solution for the internet. Type in any website's name and chances are good that you'll find a snapshot of it from years ago, before anyone really knew what pleasing web design looked like. The number of pages currently archived sits at around 400 billion. That's a lot of internet. That's also a lot of time and effort spent typing away at a keyboard to create all of these websites, and even more spent backing everything up. As anyone who's run a website can tell you, it's incredibly easy for things to disappear without warning and never be seen again. Which is why the folks at the Internet Archive are dedicated to preserving as much of our online and physical data as possible. How much, you ask? Try 50 petabytes worth. I don't really know the best way to describe that amount of storage because you can break it down in an infinite number of ways. But let's say, for example, you gain control of the Internet Archive and wanted to fill it with nothing but this one photo of Huey Lewis and the news. Now it's only 80 kilobytes, so you'd have to copy it roughly 700 billion times. Alternatively, if you wanted to fill that space with nothing but the band's Hip to Be Square music video, a personal favorite of mine, you'd only be able to fit a measly 3 billion copies onto those drives. Or maybe you just wanted to stream the band's multi-platinum selling album Sports over and over until the 50 petabytes ran out. You'd be listening to that album for almost 10,000 years. That's the power of love. That is a lot of Huey Lewis. But you have to remember that the archive is constantly being added to, which means that number is always growing, as is the archive's collection of hard drives. If you think that an organization committed to the preservation of digital information would have some kind of fancy, state-of-the-art system to back things up, like some space-age room with robot arms accessing data from floor to ceiling, well, you're only half right. They are pretty tall. In reality though, they just use normal hard drives. 20,000 of them. And okay, it's not entirely normal. They do have some pretty intricate, custom-built hardware and fail-safe systems in place to ensure information is mirrored in case of an emergency, but they're all custom-built out of things that you can buy from your local electronics store. See, they go shopping. They're just like you and me, only with better backup habits. Okay, so we know that the Internet Archive archives the internet, but the Wayback Machine is just one of only several disciplines that the archive practices. All you have to do is just take one look on their website and you'll realize that there are millions of books, movies, radio programs, vinyl records, all digitized and ready for your viewing or listening pleasure. But if physical media isn't your thing, they also have a library of over 7,000 old PC and arcade games that you can play without even leaving the website, thanks to a browser-based emulator. Ultimately, the goal of the Internet Archive, as it's written on their website and preached by all its employees and volunteers, is to provide universal access to all knowledge. But that sounds impossible. The internet is just too complex and the physical world too vast for one organization to back all of it up, right? Well, that may be true. The sheer amount of information out there in the world might be far beyond the reach of the people who work here at the archive, but that's exactly why crowdsourcing is so important. The website is set up so that anyone can upload their digital artifacts, as I call it, and have them immortalized in the archive. And honestly, that's kind of what we all want, right? We all want to be able to preserve our books, our photos, our heirlooms, and we're all lucky enough to have an organization that not only allows us to do so, but encourages us to actually donate the things that matter most, our memories. Here's me. Not sure what I'm watching, but seem to be pretty happy.
The wonder of San Francisco is people don't call you crazy. They'll go and say, okay, what's your idea? That's kind of a neat idea. Can I help? So there was this support network that was all yeses rather than all no's. But San Francisco is home.
I think most people would assume that there's some kind of government agency taking responsibility for backing up this very important part of human life. But no, it falls into the hands of this small nonprofit right here on this sleepy corner of the Richmond District. And if you ask me, that's the best thing to ever happen to the internet. So much information about our world is now completely intangible. It almost seems like an insurmountable task to record this seemingly endless sea of data, and for the most part, it is. But the point is that people at the Internet Archive seem to understand that history is not as well documented as we all think. We look at old photos, read old books, browse Wikipedia, and tend to believe that because we already have a record of the past, we don't have to worry about preserving the present that we are all currently living in. We tell ourselves that people are writing everything down, the internet is forever, it'll be fine. But what about our own experiences? What about the things that the internet can't archive? If we're not careful to document and preserve our own personal history, we'll end up like the old lady in Titanic, our memories being the only proof that they existed at all. And that's kind of my goal with these videos, to help preserve my neighborhood, my city, and the places that I care about in their current state, because nobody has even the slightest clue of what the future is going to look like.
We're 150 people at the Internet Archive, but there are thousands and thousands of others that are all participating towards building something that is more than just ourselves. It's an information interconnection system that connects people with information that they need. It gives people an idea of what they can leave behind by writing things that will endure. That's the dream of the internet that I'm still after, and many, many others are as well.
It's easy to look back 100 years at an old photo and ponder what the world would have been like had we been around then. But think about 100 years from now. What will that be like? How will things change? What will we miss? And who will be looking at pictures of us, wondering what our lives were like? Well, let's give them more than just a photo to figure that out. Hello, future people of San Francisco. The 21st century was pretty rad. No flying cars yet, but we did invent robots that can tell jokes.
What did the baby mosquito say after its first flight? Mama, mama, did you see? Everyone was clapping for me.
That's pretty bad. And so I wanted to make something very clear with you guys, and that's while I was editing this video, I found out that the Internet Archive, they announced the release of the National Emergency Library. That means from now until the end of June, every single one of their 1.4 million books on the archive are available to check out without any restrictions. And while there are plenty of people that are very happy about this because of the fact that libraries, physical libraries are closed, it did draw the attention of many publishers, authors, and booksellers. And so their problem with this is that it feels like some form of large-scale piracy. On one hand, you have the people who are trying to make a living off of writing, selling, and publishing books, which has become a lot more difficult. And on the other hand, you have an organization that is trying to fill the void of physical libraries for people that depend on them for information. Honestly, I was not expecting such a complicated topic to pop up during the making of this video. I'm the last person that anyone should be asking about copyright law, but while this sort of thing doesn't invalidate any of the good that the Internet Archive does at all, I at least want to be transparent about it. And I just want to make this issue clear because it's very relevant to the purpose and usage of the Internet Archive's preservation efforts. And so if you want to learn more about the National Emergency Library, there's a couple links down below in the description that you can check out, a couple of news stories, and also a blog post by the Internet Archive themselves, kind of just explaining the whole thing. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. This was a really fun video to make. I really hope it encourages you to maybe not necessarily give all your photos and videos and whatnot to the archive to donate, but at least find ways to back them up yourself. You know, preserve them for your own personal satisfaction and history. What I've been doing more and more of is taking physical photos, like either with an instant camera or getting the photos on my phone printed out and stuck on the wall. So make sure you guys just back stuff up, don't delete anything, and I'll see you guys at the next spot.